And that's the thing about those storms I'm telling you about, is you really don't know the magnitude of them and what they produce and how tragic they are or the blessings they bring until you actually separate yourself from or get distance from that storm and you reflect upon it. Going through prison, having to defend myself on multiple occasions. Thank God nobody ever threatened to kill me. And I never had to kill anybody. So, but that journey of prison, man, is a whole other story that I'm actually writing my book about right now. Of my personal experiences, the things I've learned, the things I wish I never got to see or hear. And it's ultimately made me who I am today. And that's the thing about those storms I'm telling you about, is you really don't know the magnitude of them and what they produce and how tragic they are or the blessings they bring until you actually separate yourself from or get distance from that storm and you reflect upon it. We can only see how big a storm is through like a radar, right? But when we're caught in it, we don't know if it's going to kill you or if it's going to make you stronger, but all you're doing is surviving. And I think for the next 6 years for the next 3.5 years while I was in a maximum security prison, the only thing in my head and day for day when I woke up to those bars, when I knew I shouldn't be here, I went to the day room and I sat down on those chairs and I tried to watch football and I couldn't. It hurt so bad to watch it because that was the life I had. That was the identity I had. And I felt like when I was in prison, I was sitting in those benches that I didn't know who I was because I wasn't playing football anymore. And I just felt like I was nobody. And I sat there and I went back to my cell every time and cried, and because I wish I was out there with my buddies and I would see people that I played against go out there and make plays. And I just wished so bad that I was on that football field. And, but I woke up every day in a complete hellhole. And until I made a decision within myself to continue to live, and that I dive deep into faith and figuring out who is higher than me. Because if I try to go and find something within myself, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. I'm empty. And so I started filling myself up with things that I believe that have shaped me and molded me into who I am today, the drive that I have today. When I got married, I don't know if we have time to talk about the prison journey, but fast forward, and the investigation.
We have time. I mean, first of all, I think one of the very many touching things about the story is that your sweetheart stuck by you the whole time. Her parents as well speak very, very highly of you. You guys were, you meet a girl in high school. A lot of us have those stories, and then it is what it is. You're young, then you learn the world, then you go to college, you drift apart, you meet other people. Not your story. How grateful are you for her? I'm sure you've thought about this when you've really thought dark thoughts, but how would you have made it through this without your brothers and your parents and her parents?
I don't think I have. I don't think I would have. I try to put myself in these shoes where if I had family and friends absent from me during this journey, would I have hope to come home, or would I have been lost within that place of a penitentiary? Because the thing about a penitentiary, man, is, oh man, it's a world inside of a world. They could teach you about patience. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of absolutely nothing going on. But it also is a place full of hate and racism and just so much evil stuff happening around you. I mean, you're witnessing people get murdered. I mean,
Did you see someone get?
Yeah, multiple times. I've seen somebody get stabbed to death, and I could hear the pop of the dull blade going into their skin. And that's my own cellmate, my first cellmate, See, when you're in prison, they pair you up with people of your charge, your type of charge, and your type of time, normally. And I'm going to say that because there was an exception to the rule on my fourth cellmate. But my first cellmate was a guy who was kind of my age, and he did what he did. And he sexually assaulted his niece. He raped her. He was 24, 25. Just kind of a weird, odd fella guy. And he was into like weird anime and extreme heavy on pornography. And, you know, he was just my guy, a guy I had to share a cell with. And I felt very uncomfortable all the time. You know, I was in school. I was working out all the time. I was anywhere but that cell block. I couldn't be on that cell block. There's people that didn't like me. And there was positions I didn't want to be in to ever have to defend myself. Because in prison sometimes, depending on where you're at and what blocks you're in, it's either kill or be killed. And so my prison journey required me to really manipulate where I went. I signed myself up with college so I could be in the schoolhouse for at least 10 hours a day. I went to chapel class so I could be in the church house for at least 2 hours a day.
Do you have anybody to help you figure this out, or is this all you?
I made friends in there.
Yeah.
I made buddies. I made guys. I made
older dudes,
older guys,
like solid guys.
Cadillac guys. I'm talking about Cadillac.
What's that mean?
Cadillac means that they've been in there for a while.
Okay.
And when you're in there for a while, you're not rocking and rolling anymore, unless you've been in with the gangs and you stayed with gangs. Then you're one of the higher ups, right? In those gangs. The unit I was on was also classified as a grad unit. A grad unit is a gang affiliation unit, a gang defiliation unit. So when you get affiliated as a gang member in prison, you get separated and segregated into administrative segregation. And you cannot leave that 5x9 cell unless you de-affiliate from the gang. It doesn't matter if you hold out for 20 years, right? You will be in there until the end of your bid. If you do not defiliate, take a program, right? You got to take a 1-year program and then de-affiliate from your gang, and then you get shot to these different type of grad units around all of Texas. The WIN unit that I was at, the maximum security unit I was at in Huntsville, was a grad unit. So there was a lot of de-affiliated gang members there, but there was also a lot of gang members there. So I had a very small circle of people I could call my friends in prison. I only had about maybe 3 guys that I talked to, and all of them were in there for life. They have life sentences, all for murder. And one of them is a grad gang member. His name's Thomas. He's my best friend. Still to this day, he is my best friend. This guy right here, I think my first year in prison, I met him on the rec yard. I was working out, and he was working out. He worked out by himself, and I was working out by myself, and we shared a push-up station together. I said, "Hey, can I get in here?" And he just said, "Yeah." He's real quiet. So we're doing push-ups, and he's doing push-ups, and he's like, "What's your name?" And I'm Greg, and he's just like, he said he's Thomas. He's 44 years old. Looks like he's 30 years old, right? Super in shape. I didn't know how. I just looked at his arms, I looked at his neck, and I looked at his tattoos on his face. He has 2 lightning bolts, which is AC or AB, depending on which is Aryan family, right? He's got bolts on his arms, and he's got tattoos, very demonic tattoos on his back. And he worked out with his shirt off and all that. And I'm looking at his tattoos, and I'm seeing how he's speaking to me, and it doesn't match up, right? He's speaking with such well manner. He's speaking with such high vocabulary. He's speaking, looking at you in the eye, and when he shook your hand, he shook it hard, right? He shook it, with intention. And he smiled sometimes. And I was like, it's really hard to smile in prison, And you're not supposed to, right? You're supposed to actually not smile, because smiling meant that sometimes you're weak. So it's weird, because in prison you have to take on this other side of you that you don't want to be. You want to be happy. Right? It's such a depressing place. I talked to Thomas, and you know, he's very closed off at first. He's a man with very few words. But as time went on, we saw each other on the rec yard a lot, and we worked out together, and then finally I took a semester off of school to go and do a trade. I got into some woodworking cabinet making, and he was
Legos, bro.
yeah. Well, I was like, you know what? I want to go learn a trade. I want to go work with some power tools, and I had actually just received my classification to go out there. So for about a year, it was just good behavior. I got a G2 classification, which was the best one you can get before a trustee classification. Trustees were like you're actually like working in like visit room. You get to go out and like mow the lawn of like the mall and like all that stuff, right? I can never get that with my charge. The best I could get is G2, which I could work in the factories and take trades and stuff like that. I went to go take a trade, and then I also got a factory job whenever I'm not in a trade. And Thomas was an assistant carpenter in the woodworking class, but also he worked out in the factory. So I got to see him in the woodworking class, but also out in the factory. He was a welder out in the factory, and he was a woodworker assistant in the woodworking class. So when I went to class and I also went to work, he had taught me a lot about wood, and then he also taught me how to weld when I was out in the factory, right? Whenever we were slow. And I was working in the injection molding factory where I ran a injection molding machine where we made in the state of Texas, like every college and all that, like there's a master's factory too, but the industry is called TCI, Texas Correctional Industries. And all it is just a bunch of slave labor of inmates that want to get out, and a very high profitable factory industry. All the workers work for free, and all the workers are inmates, and the only people that are being paid are the supervisors. And so Thomas and I grew very, very tight friendship. And then also, he was also a Christian. And at that point, I was going down my own faith walk. And so we had numerous conversations about the Bible, and he was more of an apologetic Christian. Like he was more of like defending of the faith. He's a very high intellectual person. And now Thomas, he just graduated from the Darrington Seminary, so now he has a PhD in theology. And if you ever read one of his letters, he's writing the foreword to my book. If you ever read one of his letters, he has a type of writing vocabulary. It's extremely hard to read. And he writes with such great penmanship that it looks like it should be on the Declaration of Independence. And little do I know that Thomas, I remember talking to him, and I said, "Man, are you like a genius or something?" And he's like, "No." And like, I remember we took an IQ test, and I was talking about my IQ test because when you're in diagnostics, you have to take an IQ test, and we were talking about IQs, and Ray, my other buddy, was like, "Thomas scored a 155." I was like, "What? I scored like a 92." And I was like, "Dude, you have a 155?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Yeah, they segregated me for 2 years because they thought that I was..." Early on in his prison life, he was so thrown off running into the AB and AC gangs. Every time he went to seg, he would figure out ways to pop open that seg door, and he was an escape artist. There was one story where he was on a seg block, and they could not find a door that they could put him behind without him popping it open. And there was one story where another buddy who was with Thomas got there and was like, "Hey, there's a story of Thomas. We were on the cell blocks, and all you hear is just like these ding sounds, ding, 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 and ding, 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 ding." And literally we know is Thomas over here at the end of the run is taking out all the ball bearings to the doors. And next thing you know, you just hear this whoosh, and you just see Thomas just walking down the run, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Dude, you escaped through cells and stuff?" He's like, "Yeah." And then they finally told me that I could have special visits with all of my visitors, like my kid, or not his kids, but his mom and his sister, contact, because he was a gang member, so he couldn't. And so they said, we'll give you contact visits if you stop breaking out of our doors, dude.
What was he using? Tools? Was he?
No, he wasn't using any tools. He was using whatever he could make out of things. And I was just like, dude, that's so unbelievable. That's gonna be in my book. But Thomas, man, he's my best friend. Still to this day, we talk to each other. I take care of him financially in there. And when he gets out, God willing, he gets out, he's gonna come work for me. And we're gonna start a metal fabricating business. The trailer he fabricated. So he would do a lot of jobs in there, and a lot of guards sometimes, like these master welders or people that inmates, they know that they can build really cool things. They would get free labor out of them just to kind of throw them a cheeseburger here and there, right? Some brisket here and there. And so Thomas he literally made and fabricated a 40-foot smoke trailer, gooseneck smoke trailer with 4 different type of barbecue pits, stainless steel kitchen, all this for about a total of maybe a couple dozen cheeseburgers here and there, and some brisket and this and that. And this trailer went on to the Texas State Fair and got second place in a barbecue cook-off. The guard who owned the trailer went to go and get second place, and it was off the trailer that Thomas made in prison.
How did that guard source all that steel?
Boy, he just got the material. And the labor was free. Brought the material up to the labor shop, had a good connection with the labor.
That's $150 an hour work right there out here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Thomas has this act of just building things into complete masterpieces. Some of the things he's made. So I sold probably over 100 different type of tooled leather laptop cases that he's made in the craft shop on Etsy. And I've sold every single one of them in about 2 years. And all the money, I was selling for like $150 each. All that money I sent back into his account, and he's probably made over thousands of dollars worth of laptop cases that I put back into his account.
That's very cool of you to do.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for checking out my videos here on the JESS MARSHALL YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe for sure. Hit that bell. Press that button to watch the next video. If you got a question you have about any of the topics I bring up in the videos, drop a question below, and we'll be sure to get an answer back to you ASAP. See you on the next one.